Friday, November 22nd, 5:50 p.m. New York time. Welcome back, investors, to Winning Wall Street's Money. We just finished another week in the U.S. markets. Yep. Next week is a short trading week for the U.S. stock market. It's a holiday. Next Thursday's Thanksgiving. So again, expect less activity from the most amount of traders because many traders take off for the whole week. Some take off for a few days. And not just the U.S. stock market. There are other financial exchanges that will be closed too. Well, since we just finished the week and last week, the past days, we had big companies report earnings, a lot of economic news. Going to show you the major U.S. stock indexes as well as the major stock sectors to help identify those that made new highs this week. Yep. The market is bullish. It's been bullish for months, been bullish since last year. So again, we're looking at stocks that are on companies that are listed. Not all companies are listed on the stock exchange, but companies that are listed on the stock exchange do one of two things. They either manufacture a product or provide a service. Example, the retail store Walmart provides a service. The manufacturing company Ford manufactures a product. Boeing manufactures a product. Amazon provides a service. McDonald's provides a service. Tyson Chicken, yeah, they make the product. Got it? Products or service. It could be one or both sometimes. Nike makes a product. And several stores sell it. Got it? Again, we're not talking about bonds. We're not talking about currencies. We're not talking about crypto. We're not talking about commodities. We're talking about stocks, companies that are listed, ones that have documentation of their growth. Big difference than the other ones I mentioned. So look at the major U.S. stock index, the go-to stock index that more the wiser people, from institutions to individuals that manage their money, they look at this stock index, compare their performance with for their stock portfolio. If you don't have stocks in your portfolio, well, then you shouldn't be comparing this index to that portfolio. There are some investors that only have bonds in their portfolio. There are some investors that only have currencies, and there are some investors that only have crypto, and there's other ones that have real estate. Yep. Again, not all investments people have equity. For whatever reason, not everybody wants to own stock. So these charts are 5 years of history. Each candle's a week. And look at this. Here's the low. Back in the year, see this yellow horizontal line? On the far right tells you the year 2020. Yep. So now we are here, the year 2024. Nice. Big bullish market. It did not just happen this year. Got it? It did not happen after the election. We were already in a bull market before the election. We were already in a bull market before the campaigning started. NASDAQ 100. Look, here's the low for the past 5 years right here. And here's the high. And the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Here's the low for the past 5 years. Here's the high. So the three major stock indexes I just showed you all made new highs this year, the past weeks. Bullish. Yep. Okay. We're going to go a little bit deeper. Look at some other indexes. The Dow Transports. Here's the low for the past 5 years. Here's the high for the past 5 years. Yep. Back in 2021, it was the high. This year, we did make a new high for this year, the prior week, but still below the high of the 5 year. So again, the first three indexes I showed you are performing better. The Dow Utilities. Here's the low for the past 5 years. And look what happened. This week, all-time new high. Yep. So the Dow Utilities has 15 companies in the index. You could take your time and look at those individual companies, see which ones are performing better than the index. But I'm showing you the index. Index made a new high for the year, a new high for the 5 years. You could trade those companies individually. Same with the other indexes. Now we're looking at the Russell 2000. Here's the low for the past 5 years. Here's the high. The high was from back in 2021. And we're getting closer up there. We did make a new high the past week. But again, the high was 2021. So again, the Dow Utilities made a new high for the year. This stock index is heavily in dividend companies. They pay high dividends. They're not growth companies. They're income. When people are in income equities, aka stocks, they're in those companies to have a dividend. Typically, when you're in the NASDAQ 100, you're in companies for growth. Again, there's different kind of indexes. Well, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is very diversified. Yep. The NASDAQ 100 is high-tech companies, 100 companies. Again, we already saw these other ones. Russell 2000 is a small index. And the S&P 500 is very diversified. The S&P 500 is made up of several indexes. Made it up, NASDAQ 100, the Dow Jones Industrial, the Dow Transports, the Dow Utilities, and the S&P 100. Those indexes are inside the S&P 500, not the Russell 2000. So in the S&P 500, because it's so diversified, it's broken up into 11 sectors. 11 sectors. Yep. We're going to go into those now. So my sectors are in order to the largest weighted. Yep. Weighted average, meaning that index, that sector makes up the larger percentage of the S&P 500. You could trade all these. They are stock ETFs. Just like I showed you those stock indexes, you could trade those. So again, the sectors have the companies in them. Again, you can look for those individual companies in the indexes or trade the index. Same thing, 5-year chart. Each candlestick represents a week. And the first one off the bat, technology. Here's the stock symbol, XLK. Technology makes up about 21% of the S&P 500. That's big. That's big. So past 5 years, look at that. We made a high there earlier this year, and this is where we are right now. Again, very close to the highs. Healthcare, XLV. Here's a low for the past 5 years. This year, we did make the high for the past 5 years, and look, we're trending down. Trending down. We took out that swing low right here. Yep. Huge impulse move. Look at that red candle. Huge impulse move down. Huge trading range, above average trading range. Yeah, huge move down. We broke below it, closed below it. So one of the reasons it's had a big move down, because the investors, the big ones, the institutions mostly, are thinking it's going to have a bad time going into the next administration. Yep. So those companies that manage other people's money, they have board members that vote on them. So simply, they're unloading the stock. It's called markdown distribution, smart money selling. And they're putting that capital, aka that money, into other assets. So I would not recommend buying this one. No. And again, let's zoom out. This is a key support, this green line. We broke below it. Last week, we closed below it. This week, we broke back above it, closed above it. But again, huge distribution trend down. So very likely going to test this some point in time. But this big candle, huge impulse move down. For that Fibonacci I just drew. We have not tested midpoint yet. So potential area on the upside that may be tested and may have a failure. So that's for people that know how to trade bearish. Might be looking at this sweet spot for a point of entry in or around this area. Got it? And also, this is a sweet spot too. That little gap area. Below the bottom of that wick, at the top of this wick, see, they never overlapped. So that's a gap area. Not looking good. Financials, XLF. Yep, financials. Makes up about almost 14% of the S&P 500, and it made a new high for this year. The financials are very broad. The financials include banks, insurance companies, broker companies, exchanges. Yeah, very broad. So again, they are doing outstanding, better than several of the indexes I showed you, new high for the year. And you can look at those individual banks in here. Outstanding. Yeah. Again, see this markup phase, smart money buying, distribution, smart money selling, markdown phase, another markup phase. Nice. Consumer discretionary, XLY, makes up almost 11% of the S&P 500. And when I say almost, because day to day, week to week, those percentages change. It's public information. You go to the exchanges and the underlying companies that manage those to see what they are. But I'm giving you the closest average. So here's the low for the past 5 years. Look at this, the high for the past 5 years. Nice. Communication services, XLC, makes up less than 10% of the S&P 500. Here's the low for the past 5 years. Here's the high for the past 5 years. Again, look at that. Nice run up for past years. Inside candle for the week. That's interesting. XLI, industrial, makes up about 9.7% of the S&P 500. Last week was the all-time high. Nice. Got it? A lot of these sectors are strong. Consumer staples. Here's a low for the past 5 years. Here's the high. Interesting. It's in a markdown phase. Markdown phase. That was a bullish pin bar right there. That green candle. I'll zoom in some more. Bullish pin bar. It also was a swing low. That following week went higher high. Broke above that midpoint, that big red candle. Huge run up. Big wick on the top. Rejection. Not surprised. The trend continued down. Breaking that swing low, that bullish pin bar. Breaking below it. Closing below it in that red candle. And see this big gray zone? The high of that yellow candle, the low of that green candle. There was a gap. This green candle, that yellow candle, that they never touched, they never overlap. There's a gap there. One would expect it to come down, test it. It did. And right now it's showing it as a potential buying area. You have buyers stepping there, buyers stepping there. Huge move up this week. Higher high than the prior week. Closed above it, almost a engulfing candle. Nice. Yep. So you can look at those individual companies in there, see which ones are performing better. Or you might think, okay, this is extension twice. Extension, pullback, extension, consolidation, breakout. So high probability that we'll get a retest of up here. Maybe even take out the high before the end of this year. Nice. Potential trade out there. XLE, energy. Holy moly, energy. That's expensive. Yep, makes up about 6% of the S&P 500. Here's the low for the past 5 years. This year was the high. Yeah, look at that. That was a swing point right there. Broke above it and continued going higher. Nice. Utilities, XLU. Again, here's the low for the past 5 years. Here's the high. XLU makes up less than 3% of the S&P 500. And again, that was a swing low right there, that red candle. Look at that red candle. It went down, tested it. That next week broke below it and reversed. Buyer stepped in. Nice. XLR, real estate. Yep. Makes up about 2.7% of the S&P 500. Here's the low for the past 5 years. This year, yeah. And the high was back in 2021. So this year, big move up here. We had a retracement. Big green candle there. Is that big green candle? Midpoint. Big whipsaw right there on that red candle. Let me move this. And then you had this big green impulse move up, I mentioned. And we came down, tested it. That red candle broke below it and closed below it. Let's remove it. Then you have this little swing point, which we had that followed by a strong impulse move up. Again, big red candle, impulse move, broke below it. What's this? This is that gap, fair value gap right here. Expect it on the pullback, looking for that entry. Buyer stepping in there. Nice. Worked out well. The advantage of being a Patreon member to see these videos the same day I post them. Very nice. Materials, XLB, makes up about 2.5% of the S&P 500. Here's the low for the past 5 years. Here's the high. Yep. That was an impulse move up, which made the new high for the year. And then you had that dump. So again, still breaking the highs of the prior years. Nice. So overall, what do we have? We have many strong sectors, many strong indexes. And on your own time, you're welcome to look at those individual companies in those stock indexes, stock ETFs, to see the better ones of those individual companies. Me, I personally rather be investing in the better indexes, better sectors than looking for the single stocks. But you go ahead and focus on those single stocks that might get halted, delisted. Yeah. Thank you, as always, for spending just a little time with me. That's it for the video. Thank you for watching.